Shalom. First and foremost, I give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Hashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, the great millstone, pushing this word truthfully and sincerely. And Shalom to the Hakim, scattered in the four corners of the globe, pushing the word truthfully and sincerely. And Shalom to the Hakim that be like unto the expected word, pushing the word truthfully and sincerely. I say Shalom to the Hakim out there. And this is a quick sit-down lesson on this Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening on this August the 28th, 2022 at 6:44 p.m. Central Standard Time on this Sunday afternoon, as I mentioned. And this is a news article from the Jerusalem Post by Reuters and published August 28th, 2022. And the highlight of this news article in the news for today on this Sunday, August 28th, 2022, and it reads, Taiwan says China's still carrying out military exercise around the island. And it says the Taiwan Defense Ministry says it detected 23 Chinese aircraft and 8 China's ships operating around Taiwan on Sunday as Beijing continued its military activity near the island. Salakia for them. And there was another news article as well too, if I can find it. I think it was another one similar to that as well too, if I go to RT. Oh yeah, here go another. It says China deployed ships and jets near Taiwan, Taipei. It says the moves come after the U.S. warship sails past the self-governor island. Right, because remember, you got to keep in mind that, the United States is an unofficial ally to Taiwan. Because, the United States keep on pushing it forth of Taiwan being a self-governor, self-sovereignty, island that separates the mainland of China, the South China Sea island, from the Taiwan island as well too, as they separate from one another. Because Taiwan, the history, they separated from mainland China in 1949 after the Chinese War, in 1949. So now to this day, you got Taiwan as a self-governor and self-sovereign country, And as these tensions are starting to build up, now you're starting to see more on a everyday basis of Taiwan doing military activity near coastal island of Taiwan, right close near to it, As I mentioned before in the previous videos, while this tension is still continuing going on between China and the United States, Beijing and Washington as well too, and with China against the United States, over the South China Sea and Taiwan Island as well too. Because you got Beijing stationed there, you got China stationed there, right? Japan, Beijing, China, somewhat of the United States as well too. So there's a lot of activity going on in that region, And as you see right here, it says China deploys ships and jets near Taiwan, And it says the move comes out hours after a U.S. warship sails past through the self-governor island. And it says the sizable group of Chinese military vessels right? Because you got all the nations that I mentioned that's stationed down there, because they monitoring each one another activities, especially when it comes to military activities. It says a sizable group of Chinese military vessels and aircraft have been detected around Taiwan, aiming heightening tensions in the region, the self-governing island defense ministry claimed on Sunday. According to the ministry, 8 Chinese Navy vessels and 23 aircraft were detached in Taiwan's vicinity. 10 planes, it stated, have flown over the east part of the mainland line, the Taiwan Strait, which practice serves as an unofficial barrier between mainland China and the island. The Taiwanese military added that the local combat area patrol has been giving relevant instructions and that Beijing activities are being closely monitored. It says the apparent Chinese deployment comes days after the U.S. sent 2 warships into the Taiwan Strait in what the Navy called is a routine transit mission to demonstrate the United States' commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. And it says Beijing responded by putting its military on high alert and signaling its readiness to stop any provocation in a timely manner. Early China also castigated the U.S., branding it the destroyer of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Tensions in the region have been running high since the controversial visit by the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in Taipei in early August, which sent relations between Washington and Beijing into a tailspin and triggering a flurry of China military activities in the area. And at the time, China Defense Ministry said it has conducted drills simulating a blockage of the sea, as well as the impetuous assaults and striking on the ground, striking at ground targets. It says Beijing considers the self-governing island of its own territory and views visits by the high-ranking U.S. official as attacks on its sovereignty and a violation on the One China principle. The Taiwan Strait, which separates the self-governing island from the mainland China, and it says have been a source of military tension since 1949. When Chinese nationalists fled to the island after losing the civil war to the communists. I think it was another news article as well too, and I believe this regards to the Russia-Ukraine situation. I believe it was another article from this is an actual update on, when it comes to wars and rumors of wars between the nations. If I can find it. Oh, here it goes right here. Because, you got war going on, still continuing, and it's intensifying with the Russia-Ukraine situation as well, too, along with the South China Sea dispute thing, and a potential of China might potentially invade Taiwan and then might do some type of military necessary action against the United States and their allies with Taiwan, as that tension starting to build up even more and more. And this news article right here, this is from Pentagon, from RT.com, was published on August the 27th, which was yesterday. August 27, 2022, from Home World News, alternative news around the world. And the highlight of this news article, it reads from RT.com, Pentagon signs air defense system deals with Ukraine. It says U.S. arm maker Raytheon if I pronounced that right, is to produce a NASAMS system by August 2024. It says the Pentagon has signed a $182 million deal with the U.S. arms manufacturer to produce the NASAMS, a National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems for the military Ukraine. Right, because it's already enough. The United States gave in a total of close to like 30 or 40 billion dollars in military aid, which that's a lot of money to aid the Ukrainian soldiers over there in the military with the current ongoing intensifying tensions between Russia and Ukraine, but continuing on with the work on short and mid-range air defense weaponry will be conducted at a Raytheon's facility in Taipei, Massachusetts, with an estimated completion date of August the 23rd, 2024. The U.S. Department of Defense said in a statement on Friday. Early this week, the U.S. President Joe Biden announced yet another military aid package for Ukraine, amending the conflict with Russia. It says a $2.89 billion is the largest to date, and will include a 6 NASAMS system. It says the military assistance will be funded as part of the so-called Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, the USAI, meaning the hardware will be specified, produced for Kyiv and not taken from U.S. stocks. It says in a magazine early this month, Air Force magazine described the NASAMS as a vital piece of technology could help the Ukraine forces to shoot down Russian cruise missiles, with has so far been hitting targets in the country nearly implicated. Moscow has been long critical of weapon supplies to Kyiv by Washington and its allies, saying that they only prolong the conflict, increasing the risk of a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia. Right, because we're seeing that increase as well too. I think not too long ago, I think about a couple of weeks ago, you had Russia President Vladimir Putin in that region where you have certain allies of NATO. I forgot what region it was. He sent just in case his troops come under attack, or his allies as well too, because Belarus and Russia, they're allies with one another, and Vladimir Putin ordered extra military assistance in that region over there, where you have allies of NATO over there as well too, to cover with military assistance over there in that area, just in case. Because I believe a couple of months ago, President Vladimir Putin, he didn't send a direct message, but he sent a message far as like, if his army, his military of Russia comes under attack, he'd do what all it takes to protect, his army and his allies as well too, Moscow and Russia and Belarus, against NATO forces and its allies, So yeah, this Russia-Ukraine situation is increasing, as this news came out yesterday saying Pentagon signs air defense system. And this air defense system, which is going to be developed and is going to be ready by August 2024. And this military defense system to be able to help the security military protection of United States of ally over Ukraine, and this can be used to like shut down or shoot down Russian military defense of hypersonic missiles, ICBM missiles, or nuclear range missiles, the long range, the short range, or the mid range missiles, and they can be automatically shut down, and that helps Ukraine a little bit more as the United States and the allies of Ukraine fund more and more and more money to help Ukraine out, the Ukraine soldiers, with the ongoing increasing and intensifying conflict between the Russia and Ukraine, with the which Russia call it a military operation. How the way it looks at it, it sounds like more than a Russian military operation with the invasion of Ukraine, as they do military operations throughout the whole region of Ukraine, especially like places like Donbass, Kharkiv, and other parts of Russia as well too, as other parts of Ukraine as well too, because the war is intensifying. The more military aid and assistance that the United States and its allies, that's allies with Ukraine, that's intensified the tensions between Russia and Ukraine even more and more and more, So these wars and rumors of wars are definitely heating up, and that Revelations 11 and 14 is definitely increasingly now more than ever. Second war was past, behold, the third war coming quickly, and we are definitely living in those stages of WW3, which is imminent, and you're seeing signs of that, with these nations rising up against nations, with the Palestine is, the Palestine, the Israeli versus Palestine, that's increasing. That's an ongoing proxy war, an ongoing commotions of wars between those two different nations, with the South China Sea, that's increasing on an everyday basis. You got military of Beijing, of China, Japan, United States, and Taiwan as well too, all monitoring one another, their military activities, as tensions starting to increase now more than ever in that region, between the islands separated between one another, the mainland South China Sea island, and the and over there the Taiwan island as well too, as the tensions starting to increase between Beijing and Washington, the United States, and China as well too, over Taiwan, I'm gonna bring out a scripture. It's let's see, wars. This is the book of Matthew 24 and 6. And it says that ye should hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right, because the end is not yet, because we're seeing all these prophecies increase, especially, like I always mentioned before, the nations rising up against nations, and kingdom against kingdoms as well too, and wars and rumors of wars, commotions of wars, continuing on and off proxy wars, commotions of wars between the nations. Luke 21 and 25, disgressive nations. And I'm going to bring that out as well too, after I get to bringing this scripture out. To the next verse, Matthew 24 and 7. For nation shall rise against nations, and kingdom against kingdoms. There shall be famines, and pestilence, and earthquakes in diverse places. Right, because you're seeing the increase, the nations rising up against nations, and kingdom against different kingdoms is increasing as well too. 21 and 9. I'm gonna bring out Luke 21:9 and Luke 21:25 as well too. And this is the book of Luke chapter 21 verse 9. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Right, because the end is not yet. Because more increase of prophecies starting to increase on an everyday basis, because you see so many different things that's happening in the world today. And it can be in many different categories due to the weather, due to the uproars and the people of the world, and many other different categories, as I stated, And this category right here in particular, what comes to war and military. And these are signs of things that are increasing, between the nations in different kingdoms, increasing with these wars and rumors of wars. Because now he's starting to hear these rumors of wars on an everyday basis. It's starting to increase now more than ever, And this is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25. And Luke 21:25, and there shall be signs in the sun and the moon, which we see as we look up in the sky, the red moon, the blood moons, chariot sightings, you name it, And upon the earth, disgressive nations, right? Disgressive nations, the nations, what's in 2nd Ezra 9:3. There should be uproars in the people of the world. 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 16 reference the sedition among men type spirit, invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor their princes. You're starting to see that as well too. That's why you're starting to see an increase of disgressive nations, between one another, or if it's from an economic standpoint or a political standpoint, or many different issues. They doesn't agree with the ones that's in charge, the leaders of their country, signing these unrighteous decree type laws in their respectable cities and countries. It's well too, And continuing on, and upon the earth disgressive nations were perplexity, and the sea and the raving war. Yep, because the increase of perplexity of disgressive nations, you're going to see that increase now more than ever in these latter days, So with that, I hope this was edifying. Through the spirit, power, grace, and mercy, Yahweh. And first and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Karkadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, preaching His word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, that be like unto the speckled bird, Salaki, as I mentioned again, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom and a ball.